What if I told you there's a single concept that, once you understand it, will completely change how you see the entire economy? I'm talking about how you see inflation, your savings, everything. It's all about how money is actually created. And it's one of the most misunderstood ideas out there, so today we're going to pull back the curtain and show you exactly how the machine works.
So, let's just dive right in with the big question. Who really controls the money? You might think, oh, it's the government, or maybe you picture some shadowy central bank. The thing is, the answers you've probably heard your whole life, they're not really the full story. In fact, in some really important ways, they're just plain wrong.
All right, first up, we have to tackle what I call the great money myth. We're going to completely dismantle the idea about money that most of us were taught from the time we were kids. As the slide says, it's not what you think.
This is the image we all have in our heads, right? You picture these giant government printing presses just churning out stacks and stacks of fresh bills. But here's the thing. In our modern economy, that picture is, well, it's basically a relic. The reality is something else entirely. Here is a number that might just blow your mind. Over 90%. More than 90% of all the money in our economy isn't physical cash. It's not paper, it's not coins.
That's right. The overwhelming majority of what we call money is just numbers on a screen, digital entries in a computer database somewhere. So you see, the question isn't who runs the printing press. The real question is, who gets to type the new numbers into those databases?
Okay, so this brings us to the next logical suspect, right? The big, powerful central banks like the Federal Reserve here in the US or the European Central Bank. They must be the ones creating all this digital money. Well, their role is absolutely crucial, but it's also widely misunderstood.
I love this analogy. Think of it this way. Central banks are like the traffic controllers of the economy. They can set the speed limit, they can open or close a few lanes to manage the flow, but, and this is the key part, they aren't actually driving the cars. So what do? They control the big picture stuff. They set interest rates, which is basically the cost of borrowing money. They manage monetary policy to try and keep the whole financial system stable. But look at what they don't control. They don't decide if you get a mortgage. They don't approve car loans. They aren't involved in the actual day-to-day creation of money. They just influence the environment where all those decisions get made.
So if it's not the government printing presses, and it's not really the central banks, who are the real money creators? This is where we get to the absolute heart of the matter. And I'm telling you, the answer might just surprise you.
Okay, I need you to pay really close attention here, because what I'm about to say is probably the single most important concept you need to grasp to understand our modern financial world.
There it is. Every single time a regular commercial bank, yeah, the one on your street corner, approves a loan, it creates brand new money that did not exist moments before. Let me say that again. It isn't lending out somebody else's savings from a vault. It's creating new money literally out of thin air.
And the way it works is, well, it's shockingly simple. When you get approved for, say, a mortgage, the bank doesn't go and pull a pile of cash from a vault. Nope. With just a few keystrokes on a computer, it creates a new deposit in your account for the loan amount. That digital entry, that new deposit, that is new money. It was created in that very moment. And, the system works in reverse too. As you pay back the principal on that loan, month after month, that digital money is effectively canceled out. It's destroyed. Poof! It just vanishes from the money supply. So the amount of money in the economy actually expands when banks lend more, and it shrinks when we all pay our debts back.
So, this leads us to a really fundamental and maybe even kind of uncomfortable truth about how our whole financial system is set up. We're all taught to think of debt as a bad thing, right? A problem, a bug in the system. But in reality, it's the core feature.
What this all means is that our modern money system is fundamentally built on debt. New money is born as a loan. For the economy to grow, the total amount of debt in the system must also grow. If banks stop lending, money creation stops and the whole system actually starts to contract. It's wild when you think about it.
Okay, so this might all sound like some abstract economic theory, but why should you actually care about any of this? Well, because this system has a direct, very real impact on your everyday life, from the price of your groceries to the value of your savings. This is where it goes from theory straight to your wallet.
Think about it.
The speed at which banks are creating new money by lending, that directly fuels inflation. When mortgage lending goes into overdrive, that's what creates massive housing bubbles. This whole process is the engine behind the crazy boom and bust cycles we seem to go through. And yep, it's why the cash you have tucked away in a savings account seems to lose its buying power year after year. The system is just inherently designed to favor new debt over old savings.
But look, knowing all this isn't a reason to get scared or cynical. Not at all. It's actually a source of power, because once you understand the actual mechanics of the system you're operating in, you could stop making purely emotional financial decisions and start making truly strategic ones. You start to see the patterns.
So there you have it. It's a system built on credit, on confidence, and at its very core, on debt. Now that you know the real rules of the game, the big question is, how are you going to choose to play it?